All right, now that I have my image transferred to my linoleum plate, I am ready to start carving. And as you see, I've already begun. But before I get into carving, I just want to talk a little bit about our carving tools here. All of them have different sized pieces that go on top with a sharp blade at the end. And they can all be used for different parts of your piece. So if you need to change or remove the blade, you can just twist the top here, and then it goes in between these two little metal pieces. There's a metal ball in the middle, and then a metal piece on the outside, and then you just twist it back in to change the blade. So I've got loose blades that you can interchange depending on what size you need. But if you take a look at one like this is more of like a shovel shape. It would be used for getting rid of empty space, whereas a tip like this would be more for smaller details as I go. So before I start carving, I need to decide what space I want to carve away and what space I want to leave. So whatever I don't carve away is going to be printed. So I like to leave the positive space, which is my actual design, uncarved, where the negative space, which is the space around my design, carved. So I have started with my bigger tool here. I've started to just get rid of all of this negative space as I go. Then I'll take my smaller tools and go around my Sharpie. So I'm basically carving everything but my Sharpie. Make sure that your Sharpie lines are thick enough. Some of these areas where I have really thin lines might be a little bit trickier for me to get my tool in between as I go. With that being said, we need to talk about tool safety. So whenever I'm carving, you need to make sure that your hand is behind your tool. You're always carving away from yourself, and you need to make sure that your hand is not in front. It's very easy for me to hold my plate down like this and carve into my piece. The only issue with this is my tool could slip, especially if it's not very sharp, and it could go right into my hand. So I need to make sure that my hand stays behind my tool. That way I can avoid any accidents. Then as I'm carving, make sure you don't go too deep. You can always go deeper after you print your proofs, but you don't want to go so deep that your plate is getting too thin. What can happen is if your plate gets too thin, it will start to bend in the printing press as you apply pressure, and it'll touch your paper no matter what. So make sure that you're not going too deep. You can always go deeper after you do your proofs. And there are some strategies that we can use to keep our the outside, the negative space from printing, because we don't want all these lines on our print. We want our print to be nice and clean. So I'm just getting rid of some of this negative space out here. And then I'll also show you how I start to go around my lines. So I like to start with the outside and work my way towards my design. Once I start to get close to my design, I'm going to take a smaller tool. This one has a little bit of a smaller space where the linoleum can be carved. So I'm going to take this one. It's kind of in a V shape, and I'm just going to very slowly start to outline, go around my Sharpie. Making sure that I'm taking my time, not going too fast, so that I don't accidentally carve my positive space. So I would just go around the whole thing, and then I would carve out more space. Then once I get into these areas that are really little, I can go ahead and take a really little tool, just like this one, and I can start to carve out the inside. The more pressure I put on my tool, the wider my carve is going to be. So I'm just going little by little here. You can turn your plate as you go to carve away those smaller areas. Just like that. I probably spent some more time on that, but you get the idea there. Then I would go in, I'd carve all of this out, carve all of that, carve all of the space that's not my Sharpie. Now, alternatively, if you have a design where you would want to leave some of the negative space, so for example, this piece right here, this person decided to leave the bathing suit on this person here uncarved so that when they printed it, they could change the color of the bathing suit as they were printing it. So that was all filled in, but you could still see they went in around the legs and the arms, everywhere else, and the insides of the leaves, so that you still got that detail. But they wanted to choose to leave, sorry, my video got cut off. But as I was saying, they wanted to leave some of this negative space, which was bathing suit, uncarved so that it would print black or whatever color they were using there. So make those decisions as far as what you want to carve. Make sure you keep your hand behind your tool. Make sure you choose the right size tool for the area that you're working in. I think that's it. You're ready to carve.